got a story about... There's a fucking mosquito.
Do you want me to try and... Where is it?
It's near the door. It's like there somewhere, but I lost it. I think it's near the wig on your bag.
Oh, the wig.
Near the wig. So when you disturb the wig, it should fly away somewhere.
No movement.
Fantastic.
Damn it. I saw something and then I lost it as well.
This is good blooper footage. Try and find the fly in the studio, because everything's still recording.
This is our Breaking Bad episode where
This
we
is
have the fly.
Behind the scenes. Well, The Fly is one of the best episodes of Breaking Bad.
It is a very good episode. It's,
But even like critically, they say, yeah, it's the best.
No, exactly, because like it takes a good show to have a filler episode still show character and be good.
Yeah. Well, nah, that's good. I think that's how we start.
Perfect.
That's it. We're in the podcast now. Welcome back to Barnzey Burns Down the World. And I'm joined today by a very special guest, fellow comedian Paul Proyschart. How are you supposed to pronounce it?
Genuinely, that is pretty close.
Okay.
Ideally, if you are able to, you roll the R like the back of the throat. That Proyschart.
I can't.
Look, I can get into a whole nerdy thing about phonemes and linguistics. That's probably for a separate. Unless
No, dude. If you're like you want to nerd out about something, go for it. Like,
dude,
conversation is like this is literally we can talk about whatever we want. Linguistics, language, and conversation. I've got stuff on the agenda for that. Very, very riveting stuff.
I was going to say it's the way you said linguistics. It seems very unlike kind of what I'm aware of you kind of talk about on this podcast. But let's start there.
Fuck it. Yeah. Okay.
Easy. All right. What a way to start. Yeah, so back in I studied psychology for my undergrad, and for one semester we had this, what was it called, unit on psycholinguistics, and pretty complicated, a lot of it went over the top of my head, but I do remember some really interesting things. For example, phonemes. I always struggle with where to start with context, but basically a phoneme is the smallest unit of language. So
a phoneme, is that what you said?
That's the word.
A phoneme. Okay, never heard that word before.
No, it was. That's why it was interesting, because I learned something new, which explains like relatable things.
Yeah.
So p, t, b, f, like all of those are a phoneme, just that single sound.
Okay.
And apparently, from memory, there's something like 120-ish phonemes that humans could produce. But every single human language only uses about maybe 20 phonemes. So if you don't so as a baby, you can hear and distinguish every single phoneme. But as you grow up, you lose that ability. So unless if you grow up bilingually, you will never then be able to produce those phonemes.
Right. So you're saying that, I guess, okay, so it's all subconscious stuff. Like the recognition of the phonemes and all the sounds. So even when you're as young as an infant, you're still, like, even in the back of your mind while developing, you recognize that. Does that mean by definition, people who grow up in a household with multiple languages, 2 or more, are just inherently smarter?
I mean, in that type of intelligence, yes. I don't know if you would say that they're overall smarter.
Well, I mean, the ability to distinguish 2 different languages, like, that's why it's easier for children to learn more languages, or like 2 languages, than it is for adults. Like, if we were to pick up another new language, like, let's say we were to learn Danish. Yeah, that is a language, yeah?
It is
Making
a
sure?
language. Yeah,
Good, I just gotta
can confirm.
Make sure. If we were to learn Danish and pick it up now from no knowledge, and at the same time we ran an experiment where a small child also picked up Danish. And
the child would be way faster.
Yeah, like that. And it's like, they don't have, I guess, learning techniques. Like, the only edge that we would have is growing up learning how to learn. But because it's all subconscious for them and it's easier for them to learn, they would still win.
100%. And even if you practice your whole life, you would by definition not be able to make certain sounds, which is the whole point of why I started this, is that's the reason that you can't do the because you just didn't grow up with it, and now you can't go back and learn that.
But is there just no way to learn, or is it just really hard to?
That's a good question. And yeah, I don't think we dived that deeply from the unit. Yeah. I think it's impossible, but that's a strong stance. So
there we go. Fantastic. All right, so we planned introductions. Hey, this is how I know Paul. This is what we do. Fuck it, out the way now. Let's have a pseudo-intellectual conversation, pretending we know what we're talking about, languages, and now we're going to get back into regularly scheduled programming. So, how did we meet?
We met in November of 2021.
Correct.
Which, as of now, is last year.
Yep.
Almost a year, almost
a year ago.
In fact, a year ago now.
A little bit over a year ago.
Yeah, a little bit under a year ago.
Under?
No,
2020. Oh, yeah.
Because it's not November yet.
We're going to break the illusion of when this is recorded, because this is going to be released 2 weeks from now, I think.
Even then, I think we were like the very last week in November.
Yeah, because it was in the 20s. It was like, there was like the 21st. Because I think we did a course. We did a comedy course I can tell you why I did it. I've never asked why you did the course.
Okay.
But we'll get there.
Yep, we'll get there.
I did the course because, yes, I knew how to learn. Because we're stand-up comedians. Very, very professional. And I did it because I wanted to make connections, people like you who are at the same starting point, like a beginner level, and I guess the course was a good way to begin networking. Like meet someone who runs a club, who does a course, is well connected with other people and everyone else who's starting off. Would you say that is similar to how you approached it?
I got a similar thing out of it, but that's definitely not how I approached it.
Well, tell me how you approached it.
Yeah, I'm curious in a second to ask more about yours, but I never really thought about doing stand-up myself, ever, really. It was, what I did enjoy was public speaking. So through uni, I just kind of realized whenever I had a presentation that, oh shit, as long as I'm remotely interested in this topic, I can just make it my own and be expressive and not be like every other monotone, nervous-ass, boring guy up there.
Of course.
Or girl, anyone who is up there. And then when I was at my previous company, I joined this thing called Toastmasters, which is just like a group gets together on a regular basis, twice a month, to practice their public speaking. And through this group, through Toastmasters, I met Adam Sparnan, who is a comedian on the Melbourne scene.
Yep, he was also the photographer for our course as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
that was that guy.
Yes.
And simply the fact, like, before I even ran into him, the fact that somebody told me there's a comedian with us, that just like sparked my interest. I was like, okay, shit, how did he do that? And as soon as I even knew one comedian personally, I mean, we spoke virtually, but personally to that
knowing
degree, knowing someone at all, like speaking to them.
So I've got something that relates to us. In the course, there were like online sort of, I guess, questionnaire shit. I saw you answered everything in like immense detail.
Well, this ties back to what I said before about linguistics, not because of the linguistics, but because of the fact that I'm a fucking nerd. Who,
yes.
I'll do
if you couldn't guess by the Ned Flanders appearance.
Which is one of my favorite gags as well.
Yeah.
Which I have to thank, what's his name? Andy, I think, who gave me that.
And it was fuck, I could see the picture of his poster with the
cereal
bowl.
It's Burial. Andy Chambers.
That's it.
So he once reckoned that I look like Ned Flanders. And since then, on a regular basis, one of my lines is just, people tell me I look like a German Ned Flanders. And as long as there's more than 3 people in the audience, at least one section of the audience will laugh a lot.
Yeah.
So not everyone agrees, but enough that it's like a
good introductory starter. Hey, this is who I am.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's alright. It's better than my one. I tell people I kicked a pregnant woman.
To be fair, you do have the left-handed thing.
Yeah. There's that too. Yeah, I've got to work on a lot of my material because after one of the writers' rooms, because we also regularly go to, I guess there's like a afternoon sort of writing session with other people who are at our level, and after listening to people who are way more qualified and experienced than us, you look back at your own notes and you go, "Oh fuck, what I've got is dog shit."
100%.
Yeah, it's a good reality check to have, and it's not that it's discouraging, but it realigns focus. I found that for me. Do you agree with yours, from your perspective?
In some ways, yes. In the sense that if I just look at a single show of someone who's doing like a Fringe or a comedy festival show, or even just some kind of pro comedian show, instantly I look at my material and be like, it's going to take me years to get there.
Yeah.
God damn it.
But as soon as you get that one fantastic laugh for that joke, it's like, fuck yes, I am the best. I am a comedic genius.
100%. You feel better than everyone in the world.
And then you take it to another club and it does nothing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had that experience this week. Wednesday, bombed for 2.5 minutes. And thankfully that's all I got because anything more would have been more painful. But then Thursday, one of the best gigs I've done. And
That's
then
good.
It goes like that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's whoever's out and about, what day of the week, what club, what area. At our level, I mean, that's their very major factors. At superstar level, like A-list stuff, they don't have to worry about that shit. They're in a whole different world. Same industry, but way above.
Yeah, I mean, people come to see them with the intention to laugh, so that alone already makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Which is not meant to say that's the only thing going for them. They've obviously done a lot of work to get there.
It helps.
It definitely helps.
It does. And even... Well, that's probably why... The videos, because at the end of the course that we did, there was a live performance, and it was like, I get your friends and family in to see what you've done, and they were there to laugh, they were there to support, which was good for the footage when it was like. So when I told the Alec Baldwin joke, right, never got a reaction like that before, and haven't gotten a reaction like that since.
Yeah,
and I've been pursuing that, been chasing it. And actually...
Sorry, you go.
Yeah. There was a post on Alec Baldwin's Instagram, and it was a picture of the cinematographer going 1 year ago. And it wasn't even like a rest in peace or in memoriam or like anything. It just said 1 year ago. It was kind of strange.
Yeah, it is a bit.
And going by that post in the timeline, that means it was like barely a month after it happened when I was like, hey... disaster, funny. Which, looking back, is like... You should be able to joke about things that are that recent. There is a line, but it's our job to test the line and push and see how far we can get. And I know your material isn't always like that, like going for that angle, but do you have an opinion or perspective on pushing the line in your humour?
This is probably where I'll come back to what I was explaining to Josh before the podcast, which is, in general, I'm very slow to form opinions on things. And once I do, they're not set in stone. They're not extreme either. But I think just kind of surface level, I definitely agree with some level of testing boundaries. I think I don't comment personally on major news events, mostly because I just don't follow the news. And everyone else does it anyway, so I'd have to like really be better than everyone to make it stand out. But I do still have some jokes that seem to be testing boundaries because like in Frankston on Thursday, it worked super well. In Red Betty, I've done a couple of times in Fitzroy or Brunswick. They make people uncomfortable. And so,
what are the top, without to say what the jokes are, because you don't want to burn material, obviously, but like what were the topics, I guess?
One of them is kind of spying on ladies as a teenager. But
okay, alright.
I thought that I made it absurd enough that you wouldn't get uncomfortable. But I suppose this is where the whole thing is of some people's stance is some topics, the topic is off limits.
Yes.
Which I definitely disagree with. I think the whole point of conversation is to bring to light even just disagreements or issues or just humor in general. And I feel like in some ways we're never going to convince each other of certain things being funny because some things are just more funny to some than others. And I just sometimes wonder how that works with offense. I feel like one issue right now is a lot of people, often white guys, are offended on behalf of a group, but that group is actually not offended. Like if you make certain jokes about, I don't know, let's say, for example, Indians or gay people. And then there's the white guys who are offended on behalf of gays. Like, you cannot say that. But then you tell it in front of a gay guy and they actually fucking laugh their ass off.
That's actually, like, completely accurate. Like, I had a joke that was, not sexual, but it was sexual humor. And the best reaction I've got is from someone who was not very, they were a drag queen. Do you remember? It was,
was it April
Latrine?
Yeah,
we can name names. Yeah, April Latrine. Yeah,
I've seen.
Yeah.
I've
so
met
them,
her or him. Met them once. Yeah.
Is it him? Is when it's drag? Drag is male dressing as female. There's no.
So always.
I think.
I guess on that, I don't know. So for the most part, I think you're right. But it would be fun if ladies dressed as men. Is it?
Yeah. That does that only happen in movies?
I can't even think of a movie where that's happened. I can think of White Chicks.
She's the Man. That's one where I forget the actress's name, but she wants to be on a soccer team or something, and then she goes into this university, pretends to be a dude, and
shit. I just thought of another one. I just don't remember what it is. Might have been something Middle Ages where someone has short hair and then it can convince others that they're just a young boy.
It even happens in Lord of the Rings where like one of the characters,
I am no man.
That character, yeah. Not Galadriel. Galadriel's the elf. Do you know much about Lord of the Rings?
A little bit. I've actually seen a lot of summaries recently, just YouTube rewatching, like not rewatching the movies, but reliving them through commentary and things like that.
Okay, that's good. The commentary for them is fantastic too.
100%. They're magic.
What is it? I know. Arwen, maybe? There's a female character.
I think it might be Arwen.
Yeah, so Arwen goes, I want to fight. And they go, no, you're a woman. She goes, I'm more than capable. And she dresses up as a man and literally, like, kills the Witch King. All spoilers for a movie from 20 years ago. Fuck off. Shut up. I bet you no one was even, like, complaining about that. I just wanted to throw an insult. For
you got to.
No reason.
Insult the straw man.
Yeah, fuck you. But... yeah, I guess it's not very common, but to go back to people in drag, like the joke that I had was not a sexual joke, but like a funny word. It's so hard to talk about material without saying like the joke.
Yeah. I mean, look, like for the sake of, if it aids the discussion, like, I mean, this is up to you because it's your joke. I'm happy to just say the joke if it.
Yeah. Okay. So it was the word. No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna leave it for the stage because it's good. It's one of the good ones that get a reliable laugh if there's someone.
Am I supposed to say it?
It starts with a G.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that joke. So, Avril Latrine had the best reactions to that joke because I guess they're more sexually open as a person, so they were able to appreciate it and react in a positive way. But your average straight white guy, could sit there uncomfortable or like wouldn't be as comfortable with openly laughing at a joke of that nature.
Yeah.
So, and another example is like I went around, because I've already said on the podcast plenty of times that I work with a whole bunch of Colombians at a warehouse, and I went around asking them recently about what they think about white people using the Latin X prefix instead of Latino and Latina.
I always thought it was, like, in my head, I always read Latinx. I don't know if that's...
Latinx? I'm pretty sure it's Latinx.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know.
So Latinx is just, like, gender neutral for Latina / Latino.
Yeah, because you have to be accommodating of all the genders, even though Spanish-speaking countries have a lot of gender-labeled languages.
Oh, I mean, so does German, but I think it's pretty stupid. Not because of gender politics, but even just... why the fuck does a bridge have to be female? Who gives a shit what things are?
Yeah.
And then you have to remember them. There's rules about it. Okay, so
it's all interesting. We could get into a whole language discussion, but there's heaps of other things on the agenda. I'm going to shelve it for the next hour because we're going to do 2 hours of these, and that's a good one. Okay, good. That's fucking right in your nose. Not right now, but like eventually. So they think the whole idea of purposely going out of your way to change someone else's language is disrespectful in the sense that they didn't ask for it. That's how they grew up. That's how they've learned how to speak, and there's nothing wrong with it. It is how it is.
Are you saying that Latinxers didn't come up with the name Latinxers? We invented that.
Yeah, it was white people. I am 100% sure. I could be wrong, but I'm sticking by my white man privilege of yes, what I say goes.
This reminds me actually of a really interesting other discussion where my dad and I had a bit of a debate. So in Germany, there is a cream-filled chocolate that's pretty common, which is now known as Super Dickmanns, like Super Fat Mans, but it's just a name. It used to be called Negerküsse, which, as you can probably tell by the sound, means Negro kisses. And it's a little bit going in that direction because it was never meant... I mean, that's a whole thing as well. It was obviously never meant in some kind of derogatory way, but...
it was just the language.
It was language, but having said that, on the other side, you can also say that things that aren't... like, it's the whole argument of, oh, I didn't intend to do something. It can still be bad without intending to be bad.
True.
Which is the discussion it raises, I guess, which is why it's interesting. Like the Dutch, and I don't know the details of this, but they have a version of Santa Claus having a little helper who's black, and everyone does blackface on Christmas because it's little Black Pete.
That is very funny. I had no idea.
Yeah, and so like Dad was furious because he was like, "Oh, but it's been Nigga Kusa my whole life. Why should we change the name?"
It's like, well, listen, Dad, look.
Yeah, and
Firstly, settle down on the hard R there. But secondly, it's culture now.
yeah, look, I'm actually curious in Germany's case whether it was white people who changed the name or black people raised the issue. Like, in the end, I think it just depends on how black people would feel about that.
Could you even really go around asking people from those groups without not without seeming right? If you go with like, hey, we're having open discussion, I'm doing a survey for this, what are your thoughts on that? Like, you'd have to present it a certain way. Like, you couldn't just storm up in front of someone and say, hey, what do you think about this? And then if you go with aggression, they'll respond with aggression because that's just how people are. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Someone has just come up in my face aggressively.
Oh,
yeah?
dude, for sure. It's like road rage. Everyone is fucking angry at each other.
Yeah. I don't know. I love road rage. I don't really get road rage. I just...
Neither do I.
Yeah. Well, 'cause you don't drive. You don't drive. You are a child without a license.
It's a decision.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's a decision for everyone. Actually, I brought a L plate driver onto the podcast, and he hates when I refer to him as that. But like, we discussed the whole R plate thing. Do you know about what that is?
I know about L and P. I don't know about R.
Okay, so this is
Is that like restricted 18 plus?
No, so
driving?
it's not. No, nowhere near.
Okay.
So the R plate is designed for traumatized drivers. So if you've recently been in an accident or if you're anxious on the road, you have the option to display the R plate. It's not government controlled. It's like a personal social thing. Unfortunately, the R plate, everyone thought of it as the retard plate. But the other guy, his name is Michael, he brought up an excellent point from the perspective of someone who's still learning to drive, is that if you're not confident in your ability to drive, get better or don't drive.
100%.
Yeah, and he was within his, like, I guess within his rights to say that, because he's like, oh no, you're just an experienced driver. Saying it's like, no. He's in the group of people that are learning to drive. If anyone can display that opinion, it's him. Yeah, so it's not, it's not like only black people can talk about black things. It's not like that, not that major, but like that same of logic of, hey, he's part of this group, he can have this opinion, and it's valid because of this.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Realizing now I should have briefed you before, or like thought of it before, about forming the opinion thing, so we can segue and move on before I try and ask like, hey, what's your opinion? Because we've established that you got to form one, unless you've got.
Well, the best that I can do is, as we talk about this, and it does help, is just to kind of comment on individual elements of it.
Okay.
And through that, eventually I might start to form one.
Okay. So, all right, you've been in a car accident, and you're now nervous to get back onto the road. Do you put the plate up to let other drivers know, or do you work on it yourself and, I guess, not hide undercover as a regular driver? But
I guess, like, what even is the purpose of the R plate?
to warn people, just to warn people, hey, I'm anxious on the road, or hey, I'm bad at driving.
But then you might as well have a drunk plate and be like, hey, I'm a drunk driver right now. Like,
that's a good perspective, actually. Yeah, put out your D plates. I've had a bit to drink tonight. It's like, it actually helps the police.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's just, if I think about what it's trying to achieve, I don't know whether it does that.
Exactly. It's like a nothingness thing. It's
like theoretically, if I'm someone who's able to drive, something I've always been fantasizing about, and if I see someone with an R plate, one of two things might happen. Either I'll be slightly more respectful,
or slightly more disrespectful.
Well, some people will do that as well.
Yeah, I know a lot of people.
But also, there's just that in between of people have places to be and they're always going to be in a rush and not give a shit about safety. So they might see the R plate and acknowledge it, but then still go on like, oh, he's not going to be, he'll be fine today. Yeah. He'll be fine today.
It's like people who go out of their way not to harass a lot of drivers, but to like disrespect them in some sense.
Yeah.
So it's just overall does not sound like a good idea.
No, like at this stage of the discussion, I think I'm inclined to say that, agree with Michael, that it would be good to practice and get over that trauma so that you feel comfortable, but also so others don't have to worry about someone else being anxious on the road.
On the road, yeah, good. Well,
because in the end, it's about like literally life and death.
I just realized the D plate as well could also be for drugs.
There we go.
It's like, hey, watch out, guys! I've had a bit. Could be anything at this point. I've mixed. Step out the way.
It's just kind of like that whole thing of, and I'm obviously exaggerating here, but that thing of being aware of some kind of flaw, which then makes it okay, or like a movie being self-aware about how shit it is, and suddenly that magically, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't fix it.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good angle to look at the R plate. Yeah, it's old news, but like it was relative, and also I thought of the D plate link and then the drinking and drugs, and it's a very, very clean and addressable segue to get into drug stories.
Hey,
That's another thing. That's another thing. We both share a curiosity for, I guess, illicit substances, and I guess other people's experiences of it. I know you've partaken a lot more than I have, so you've got a fair bit more life experience than I do. Also, you're older than me.
Well, that's literally the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Being older is having more life experience.
Well, I mean, there's some people who are like,
I guess don't do anything with that extra age.
Yeah. But I know you have, and I know you've got stories that you can share. So please, the floor is yours. Where would you like to start?
Oh man, look, it's a pretty open thing. Like, obviously, I'm pretty tempted to get into the whole London acid thing, but I don't know. Okay, you know what? I'm always interested as well in when did you have your first A, drink, and B, the first time you were proper drunk as well, for example.
So
let's start like step by step.
We'll go, yeah, good call. The first drink I had, I think I was 3. There might be an Australian culture thing where the parent or the grandparent goes, yeah, try this. Let's just a VB and have a swig. But actually, like, consciously choosing to drink, 17. I know people who started at 15. I know people who started at 11. And it shows. It really does show.
Wow. And did you enjoy the taste of beer or most alcohols at that time? Or
beer is notoriously bad tasting unless that's the only thing you drink and that's like what you rely on to get drunk. I've always preferred bourbon. And looking back at like when I was 18, 19, drinking Jack and Coke, I'll drink it now and like it would have nowhere near the same effect, like the building up of tolerance, as what happens with all substances. It happens with illicit, non-illicit, like even caffeine. People don't realize and then suddenly they're having 6 cups of coffee a day.
Dude, 100%. Like, I'm the opposite. I'm genuinely at a point where, because I only have any form of caffeine once a week, Fridays I treat myself to a green tea, and that does it for me. A green tea fucking gets me up and energetic for the day.
Really?
Yeah.
You nerd.
Well, yeah, man.
You fucking nerd. I'm gonna turn up this weekend and have some tea. Fuck you.
It's glorious. It's because Fridays, I always change the system, but like now, Fridays is the one day that I go to the office with this new company. And so, because I'm a big napper, I can't nap if I'm at the office. So that's the one day where I give in and have some caffeine. And
it really hits. Yeah, I know that the safety warning on the can of Red Bull says have no more than 2 a day. That's how I'll start my day sometimes. I just like, fuck it. I drink 2 cans of Red Bull, have the maximum level of caffeine of what you're supposed to have in a healthy range.
I don't think the 2 is for the caffeine. I think the caffeine is fine. I think it's the fact that you're drinking a shitload of sugar and a bunch of other stuff that's not good for you.
Perhaps. But it works. It works is my point. And people are desensitized to that. Like, caffeine is a drug just as much as alcohol is, and just as much as weed is, just as much as LSD, MDMA, any of that.
And I know we're kind of delving into another category here, but it's always a question of dosage, in the sense that even things that you wouldn't consider to be substances, if you have enough, like if you have 20 billion apples, they're going to kill you. If you have a tiny bit of cyanide, it's not going to kill you.
Do you know how many 20 billion is? That is such a big number, and you're like, I know, you're like, I got to pick a big number, and you went with 20 billion? You know how much 20 billion apples?
I'm confident that they're going to kill you somehow. But
I think 20 billion apples would overfill this house. Studio!
Easily.
Yeah. 2 of them, at least. 20 billion. Come on, bro.
I have to be on the safe side.
Very fucking safe. You're safe at 10 billion. Yeah, I'll stop harassing you about the apples.
Okay.
So we're trying to. Where did we get? We got sidetracked from caffeine.
Drugs, step by steps. Okay, so we had beer. So that was your turn.
Yes.
Look,
First drink.
I'm pretty similar. Like, basically, every time I went to a restaurant with mum and dad when I was like 6, 7 years old, they would at least give me a sip of alcohol.
Yeah.
Never enjoyed the taste, but I would have a sip.
It's probably important to note that this wasn't in Australia.
It was actually.
Oh, it was in Australia.
Yeah,
I thought it was in your teen years that you moved.
So, bit of background for the listeners, and for you, I guess, at this point too.
Yeah. I should know this, though. I should know.
I grew up very interspersed between different places because Dad kept moving with his job.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, born in Hong Kong, and I'm not going to go through the whole history, but... Actually, fuck it, do it.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Okay, so Hong Kong, only stayed a couple of months, so moved to Munich, stayed a year, Singapore 1 year, back to Munich for another year, and then to Sydney for 5 years. So that's where this comes in, where I spent a lot of my childhood growing up in Sydney.
Okay.
Frankfurt, or like a little town near Frankfurt for 4 years. Sorry, no. Yes, actually. 4 years. Singapore another year. Hamburg for 2 years. Back to Frankfurt, that's where I finished high school for 3 years. UK, Canterbury/London for 3 years to do my degree. Hamburg for half a year. And then Melbourne, where I've been living since just before New Year's 2018, so like 2017.
Okay, all right. Very well traveled.
Yeah, pretty, interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, very different to many, like most people that I know. Like they've spent their whole lives locally around here.
Yeah.
Nowhere, like, let alone other towns, let alone other cities, let alone other countries. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. So yeah, first beer. Oh, what about the first conscious? Yes, I want to drink.
13, probably thinking of it. So I just moved from Singapore to Hamburg, and while I was in Hamburg chatting on MSN to some of my mates like Chris in Singapore, he was telling me about how those guys had like their first proper drinks together, getting all fucked up, and like one of them was so drunk that he was going around taking his pants off, being like, "Who wants to see my dick?" And
just normal 13-year-old things.
Exactly. And as a 13-year-old, I was like, dude, it's not about the dick thing, but that kind of crazy night, why don't we do that? So it took us a little bit longer, but after about half a year to a year, when I was 14, that's when I had my first real hangover, like drinking kind of proper experience. You know, that was when you were relying on asking the slightly older kids to, "Hey man, can you buy us some alcohol?"
Definitely done that, and they definitely shouldn't have bought for like that. There's a story that I'm thinking of where it was a sketchy guy at a skate park that agreed to buy alcohol for 17-year-olds, and looking back, that was pretty fucking dangerous.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of dangerous shit just to get drunk.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know. I want to say it's human nature. I feel like it's some humans' nature to just want to be a different kind of consciousness. Some people don't, but you know.
They just want to escape from reality.
Yeah, exactly. And I sometimes question why I choose certain highs over others, for example, which I'll dive into as well.
Oh, looking forward to it.
But yeah, basically Dad hosted a massive party for a mix of the Champions League final, and I forgot what the occasion was, but it was a big party. There was alcohol, and I was old enough that Dad didn't mind me drinking. So Dad was fine with it, Mum was fine with it, but I remember seeing a lot of shocked faces on the other parents and the other adults.
Yeah.
Seeing this 14-year-old boy who I felt all grown up, but like to them I was this baby pouring myself vodka shots and just having more of them.
Just do vodka shots.
Yeah, man. Because I started the night with a beer with my next door neighbor who was just a year older than me. So we were both all proud, like, "Oh, look at us, we're having a beer." I hated beer so much that I couldn't even drink a whole bottle. I literally, it was just disgusting.
Yeah, it's just like bitter and just, it wasn't great. Because when you're a kid, you prefer sweeter things.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe cider should have been the way to go.
It would have been, and it was eventually, but I didn't know about it at the time, and I didn't have that many options. So
we also weren't supposed to really know at the time. That's
true.
kind of a major obstacle there.
Well, I guess they had like Flick Flux, like it's like this fig liqueur kind of thing.
Okay.
We didn't have it at that party though. So at that party, options limited, I discovered that, wow, if I drink beer quickly, I don't mind it as much, but it's still disgusting. So then I figured, if it's going to be disgusting anyway, I might as well have shots, which I did. and I had a really good time. And then I felt shit the next day.
As is the standard, you got the full experience.
Exactly. And rather than getting into trouble, because obviously Dad let me to begin with,
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, look, it's your first hangover, ha ha ha," like kind of joking about it. And fucking legend in many different ways.
Yeah. Honestly, that's probably the best way to learn, in a safe environment, and it's better to, as a parent. I'm not a parent, but like, this is my opinions on parenting. It's better as a parent to go, hey, this is a safe environment. I'm looking after you. If you want to try something new that you haven't tried before that could be perceived as dangerous, I'm here to look after you. Safe environment. Explore, go for it.
And he did exactly that, which I'm very grateful for. So probably, not going to ruin his good name in his banking career and whatever. But after that, he knew... Well, I don't know if he knew or how we got there. But yeah, like I was interested in weed because I had a friend from that age who was outside that party who told me that when they went home to Italy, they were from Italy at the time. Well, they are from Italy.
Oh, we get it. You've traveled the world and you have international friends.
Yeah, there you go. And he was telling me about how at home he had weed, and he was just describing to me what it was like. And the way that he described it at the time was something like all of your worries just disappear. Everything is... I was going to say funnier. No, everything is funny, period. Like, you just can't stop laughing. And he sold me on it. Like... Yeah,
well, when you pitch a substance like that, it's like, hey, there's like nothing bad about this. Obviously, if you want to get someone to do something, you don't tell them the bad things about it. You tell them the good things.
Exactly.
It's a salesman thing, but
so
yeah,
I was pretty intrigued. Sorry,
no. Sorry. I go. Don't backtrack on my backtrack to stop and interrupt your own story. Go.
All right. Thank you.
No worries.
So yeah, from that, I think Dad probably just gathered that I was intrigued by it. Like, we were open about, even if I haven't tried it yet, that I'm interested. And it never ended up coming to this, but he offered to me. He had a lot of stoner friends who support this football club called San Paoli. It's like there's 90% of people probably don't give a shit, but there's Hamburg, has its own soccer team, but then there's the red light district of Hamburg, which has their own soccer team, way more niche and kind of hipstery and punky, but like a lot of people go to the football and smoke up in the stadium.
See, you said that like 9% of people don't care. Doesn't matter. Just say your thing, like go into detail. It's fine.
Easy. All right.
Yeah.
Should I expand on that? Or...
that was enough. I was just like trying to like.
All right,
I was trying to like.
But
don't doubt yourself in if people are interested. It doesn't matter. You and I are talking.
Cool.
The audience is a byproduct of what this is. This is for you and I.
Easy.
Okay,
all right.
so just
Cool.
we're having a conversation. There just happens to be an audience.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah?
But
Don't stress.
I agree that that's probably enough information on the football. Point is, he had stoner friends, and so he offered me, around that age. I don't think he even set a limit. He was just like, maybe for your 15th birthday, that was it. He offered me to come along with some of his mates and have a controlled introduction to weed.
Which is how you're supposed to do it, not regardless of age, but like obviously there's a minimum age, but like if you've never tried the substance before, and let's say you're in your 20s, it is a good idea to go with someone who knows what they're doing, has had it before, safe environment, set everything up, and to have that, I guess, like educational experience. I would recommend it to anyone who hasn't.
Would you say that you've had that with a lot of substances? The ones you've tried so far?
Yeah, alcohol, that was safe environment, friend's house with the cool parents. Very, very common. Even first time trying weed, that was at a party. Everyone there was stoned or drunk to some extent, but the person who was teaching me, he knew what he was doing. He knew how to introduce it to someone who'd never had it before, and he was a very good teacher. And then, like, I didn't speak to him for, like, 3 months just because, like, schedules never aligned. And then I was like, hey, look what I've done. He's like, whoa, you've gone off the fucking rails. But, like, it wasn't even that bad comparatively. He was just shocked of, like, what that, I guess, memory led to.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I was able to be like, no, look, this is how I do it now. It's like, and now I'm teaching him things. And it's like, hey, now we do this together. And it's like a shared interest or hobby. Yeah.
Nice.
So, you were saying about, like, you were going into how, did you actually try it at this, like, event, or was it?
I probably would have taken him up on it, but I ended up not And for, I guess, two separate reasons. The main one, which I'll get to in a sec. But the first one also, I was just thinking, mindset, yes, it's controlled, but as a teenager, anyone's parents' friends are just these strangers that you don't really...
They're just like adults.
Yeah,
they're like big people.
They're big people
Yeah,
that I have
it.
nothing in common with.
Yeah.
And so even though I appreciate the idea, I don't think I would enjoy myself that much.
Okay, now fair, because it's like if you were with mates and like you weren't going too far, you're like, oh, it's all chill for the evening. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no social pressure either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all chill. Unless, you got shit friends. But like, not the point.
I had interesting friends. Most of them were good friends. I had one guy who was just very much like I don't even know how you describe it. Definitely narcissist, just a lot of bullshit stories. Just that whole thing of, as a teen, you want to be cool, you want to impress others. But even despite that, I was still honest in a lot of ways. But he was the kind of guy who was just like, oh, on the weekend I had a bottle of Jägermeister because I can handle a lot, and I got 7 blowjobs or whatever. Like just that whole thing.
So, have you ever seen the In-Betweeners TV show?
No, but I've heard good things.
Okay, so there's a character, Jay, and he's like, he just bullshits. That's like his personality. He's like, oh yeah, I fucked that bird. Oh yeah, I did this. Oh, I drank that. Oh, I did this, and they just call him out as bullshit all the time. Like that character type was like exaggerated for the show, as like not parody, but like for the comedy of it. And people like that actually exist.
They do.
Like from your story.
People barely called him out on it just because there's no point. Like you sometimes, if it was us three and he would say something, we might give each other an eye, like, oh, this again. But like, there's no point.
It's like, just move on. It's like, it's not worth the energy.
Exactly. He just has to be seen in a good light. But I'm actually very thankful to him because we were planning for my 15th birthday coming up soon. For what it's worth, and it's on October, just to set the scene. So it's like start of October in Hamburg, 2011.
What's the weather like? What season are they in?
October Germany is kind of autumn. So
Autumn. There you go. See?
Yeah, there we go.
Part of staying the same.
I'm actually reliving the memory now.
Yeah.
And he already had the intention of trying to find me some weed for my birthday, which would have been on a Saturday. But then after school, it was a Tuesday, I'm pretty sure. I was going to say he, that's why it sounded he. He and a third friend and myself were chilling on a park bench that was just kind of near the school. It was our typical chill spot. And holy shit, he fucking pulls out a baggie of weed right now. He has it now.
Yeah.
And they're about to smoke some. And he's like, oh, dude, I mean, I know you probably want to save it for your birthday. I'm like, fuck no, I want to try some
No, let's go.
So,
Right time, right place. Let's fucking do this.
Yeah, man. And it was glorious. So they were rolling it and mixing it with tobacco at the time. And they got into general smoking, which I never did.
No.
But what I did do is I would at least try a few puffs of everyone's cigarettes here and there. Because, as a non-smoker, you get the tobacco flash, kind of like how I get the caffeine high with the green tea.
Yep.
But because I'm a non-smoker, I also had moments where I had slightly too much tobacco and I just felt terrible.
Yes.
For a good hour or something.
I've never understood the whole tobacco nicotine thing. I know that I've got some level of addictive personality, and if I try something or get into it and I like it, I'll just go hard. So I can't afford that with cigarettes. They're expensive.
Dude, absolutely. So when we were this was in 9th grade. When we were in 8th grade, we made a pact because, everyone in the year above us was starting to smoke. So we made a pact like, oh, that's stupid. We're never going to smoke. Next year comes around. I stick to that fucking pact, but nobody else does. So all of my friends are smoking now, and I try some puffs here and there.
Yeah.
It feels nice if you get that tobacco the nicotine high.
See, when people mix tobacco with weed, I don't like it.
I agree. Yeah. That's why, so for the first 10 minutes, I felt a bit weary, because I think it was just the tobacco.
Yeah.
And because it was my first time, I wasn't sure what to expect yet, so I just kind of felt, not great. But then we walk up this hill to go to the local shopping mart, to go to Burger King, and suddenly in the semi-distance, in an opening of where a path leads, we see this douchebag from the year level below us riding on his bike, turning to see us and laughing, but then because he turned to see us, he crashes off his bike.
Classic.
And in that moment, the high hit me. And it was the funniest thing that I've seen in my whole life.
Yeah.
It wasn't
That's how you know.
Yeah. It wasn't just laughter. I can't even describe it. It was just this
feeling.
It was this feeling. Like laughter was the only thing that existed. So that was a great fucking way to start. And then as soon as that happened, walking felt different. It's like things that I
Yep.
wasn't looking at, things behind me don't exist. I can only
You're describing this so fucking well. Like, we had this like chat about linguistics and language at the start, and you're just like proving all your merit now. Like, it's like, yeah, you're just like spot on nailing it.
Nah, thanks. Well, I'm curious to hear about your first time experience too. So I guess we'll get to that.
So, yeah, wait, you finish yours and then I'll tell mine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just this double thing of literally physically nothing behind me exists, and it just felt like this cool bubbly kind of thing. But then even just emotionally, like I tried to make myself as an experiment think about the homework I have to do later, but I couldn't care. It's like I know it's a thing, I can't care. Boom. So my friend was right.
Yeah.
It was
I think that's why people state how it alleviates any sort of anxiety, because that's just the nature of it. Like, you feel more relaxed in a sense, so you don't have the I guess mental capacity to be anxious, unless you're the kind of person that we doesn't agree with, in which case the anxiety.
That's the thing. I'll come back to this. My body has changed over time, where it's become something I disagree with, and then I've come back around to it. So
Really?
yeah. I'll get back into that later. Like that's most of the story. But then at Burger King, we have a bit of a freak out moment because, you know, it's not just shopping that happens to be near the school. It's the shopping center where people go. So coming around the corner is my mum.
Oh no.
We're all just like digging into this fucking extra long chili cheeseburger, which, side note, is the best fucking Burger King burger that doesn't exist in Australia. Digging into our cheesy extra long chili cheeses, bloodshot eyes, laughing, and then suddenly we see mum and we just put our hoodies on and like hide. And I think we were
If anything, that was more suspicious.
Probably. Dude, we weren't thinking straight, man.
Clearly.
Oh shit. But yeah, I don't think she knew. And then later I came home. I think I did some homework. I felt reasonably sober, but like chilled out. So no, it was a great introduction to weed.
Yeah, awesome. So that's a much better one than mine. There was 2 parties happening, and I was at one for 6 hours, and the second was for another 6 hours. The first one was drinking and getting drunk, and the second one was getting stoned. So my first experience was crossfading, which it's not ideal for trying for the first time, but it was like I guess a sort of a taste.
Was it was it your first time being drunk as well?
No.
So
This was
compare
yeah. So at that point, I'd been drinking at parties for like 3 years. So alcohol I was familiar with, but weed I was not, because the only way to get it is to just know people. Yeah. So I was like starting to know and meet new people that were in that realm. So after trying it with like crossfading, it didn't discourage me, but it did pique more interest. So I was like, okay, like I know what it could be, I know what it's supposed to be, I know what it feels like now. Where else can we go? Like the curiosity of it was just fueled more. So a couple months later, get the opportunity to try it again. It's like, fuck yeah, let's go. No mixing. Let's see how it's supposed to be. And I don't remember what the specific story is. Like, I don't have an exact distinct memory like your Burger King story of trying it with friends just straight and what happened. I'll have to like really think back in the memory banks and get back to you on that one.
Yeah, I'm curious.
But there's more, like obviously after that, it's like, okay, like let's see, not how far can we push it, but like what other circumstances can we be in with it. So we've tried edibles. The first time tried it, didn't do anything. It was just brownies. Yeah, they were duds. But it was funny because there was a sort of placebo effect for people who thought they were getting stoned, so they were acting it, but we knew it was bullshit. But they were the ones that made it, so they were trying to convince us that it was, I don't know, guys, it's working, just give it a minute, like, I'm feeling it now. It's like, come on, I've had 9. Come on, it's just brownies.
Damn.
But since then, you know, you get the freedom to grow and learn and explore, and people should have that freedom to, I guess, learn about themselves and go further. Yes, you don't have to have drugs to learn about yourselves, but it helps.
Oh, it definitely helps. Yeah.
It's like how people take ayahuasca to like not heal, but like I don't know much about it, so I can't really talk more. But it's like, I guess it goes LSD, DMT, ayahuasca, or maybe there's elements of DMT in ayahuasca.
Yeah, but something along those lines.
Yeah, so like in terms of psychedelic scaling, it's like weed, mushrooms, LSD, DMT, ayahuasca. That's my understanding of it.
More or less. And I've recently learned from somebody at a party that in Melbourne, you can actually there's like this toad that you lick a toad or something, and it gives you like an insane high.
Tell
Like
me
a
about this
psychedelic
after.
thing.
Tell me about this after.
I will have to, yeah.
Yeah, please, because that's, you've got my interest.
No, like that immediately. I heard that and I was like, "Fuck! What? I gotta join this conversation."
Have you done it?
I have not. I don't even know where. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how to find it. But if I don't have them on Facebook. But if I meet this person from that party again, like I could ask them.
Yeah. Organize that. We should go lick some toads.
It just sounds so close to saying lick a turd.
Yeah, I know it does. It's kind of where, we're like pushing towards. Nah, that's good. Drugstore. Look, I don't know if not if like what the legalities are for talking, because I know if it's illicit substances are legal where we are. But I mean, I guess if we say this is all satire and performance, I know this happened.
Yeah, we just did
Surprise! We're comedians, and it was all fake. We're covered. Nah, that's good. I want to address that we don't want to dive too far into the London LSD story, because I can see the timer now, and I know
we can save it for another time.
Save it for another time, but there is something coming there.
Yep.
However, what I wanted to segue off from that was a conspiracy theory that I now subscribe to. It's a complete change of topic. Is there anything you want to wrap up with in the drug stories? Then we'll get to it.
I was just, if anything, going to comment on protect the whole identity thing. I've thought about this before. Like, Mum always gets very nervous if I even make the slightest drug reference on stage. So, for example, like I tell her about my stand-up.
Yeah, but like,
in the end, like, there's no proof of us owning it. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like the whole CCTV thing, but CCTVs aren't usually someone looking live. It's more like if an incident happens, then they can go back.
Yes.
And
so it's always rolling, but it's only referred to if it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's like, okay, like, name the last 5 people in the most recent lineup that you went to. Can you?
So where I was purely in
so when you perform, like when you like the most recent performance.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that was Thursday.
So like, can you like recall the last 5 people that that performed?
There was only 6 of us that day, so other than me, I can name all 5.
Okay, but now because we're in the industry, actually, as an audience member, if you're going just to see, it's very unlikely that you'll remember. Like, it's hard for like even when we're networking, like attaching names to faces. It'll take a couple of times to do it. If the audience only sees you once, like we get different audiences pretty much every single time because we don't have a following or a fan base. Yeah, we're just base level comedians, so it's not a problem. We can kind of. It helps that we can say and test what we want. Yes, there are negatives towards that. We don't have that consistent fan bases yet. Building towards it, as evident here.
100%.
Yeah, but the ability to say whatever and however to new audiences, it's like it's a tool for us now. Yeah,
agree. And it helped that I happened to know most of them beforehand. So as an audience, I would never remember all 5 names of like a new comedian.
It's like and if you're not famous, it's hard to look up as well. It's literally just go by memory, which helps us if we say something fucked or bomb.
Exactly. And it doesn't help to have a weird German name that I probably could use a stage name, but I don't know. I like to stick with it. But let's happy to wrap it up.
Okay, so this change of topic. Are you familiar with Jack the Ripper?
Yes.
Okay, so so he's a serial killer. He was a serial killer. He was never caught, I believe. Yes, just confirm. I asked if you're familiar. I'm going to run by facts.
I know the Raig story. I don't know.
Okay, so I believe that Jack the Ripper would kill prostitutes late at night and never got caught. That's my understanding of the whole mythos. I now subscribe to the theory that Jack the Ripper is actually a woman.
Okay.
Now, my evidence is that there's a hypothetical that goes around of, all right, if you were to commit one crime and it would never be committed by anyone else again, what would you do? Now, the people go dark with this.
So when you say, so I have to invent something that...
No. Like if you let's say you rob a bank,
Yeah.
and because you robbed the bank that one time, for the rest of human history, banks will never get robbed again.
Oh, so I can actually kind of help humanity by...
Yes.
Yeah.
But you have to go, if you really want to make a change, you have to go dark.
Well, I mean, I guess genocide, because that's in terms of just mathematically, I'd be saving the most... Well, fuck. Okay, so...
You see? You see how good this is?
Because if I kill... I don't know what the minimum requirement is to be considered genocide. If I...
The whole race.
So, okay, if I try to do a loophole, right, and I establish a country which happens to have a population of 10 people, and I kill all 10 of them, maybe that's genocide because I killed a country.
Yes, but, I mean, it's so ironic that you picked genocide.
That's probably why my mind went there on some level.
Okay.
But let's say I establish a country. You know what? If I establish my own country, I can just say population 1. I kill the one person, that's genocide because I killed a country's worth of people.
And now no one will ever commit genocide again.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it still sucks for the one person and for their family if they have any, but I've saved...
Countless lives. There's no way to know.
Yeah, there's no way to know. But
Okay,
yeah.
so following that line of logic, if Jack the Ripper was actually Jacqueline the Ripper and was murdering prostitutes late at night, this now raises awareness so that women don't walk around by themselves late at night. Everyone knows that it's a danger. So now they've prevented, or like now created, this idea that it is unsafe to walk the streets late at night as a lone woman. And they've now done a public service to the rest of the world.
But they've also created the danger to begin with.
Yes.
So it's a little bit,
Yes, they have.
Literally, the other day, I was reading this article on The Age. Like, I don't read news much, but every now and then I'll just pop in for a second. And there was this article on saying how to deal with anxiety. And some of the first lines of the article were, people are feeling very anxious because of all these floods and political unrest. But as a newspaper, you're creating the anxiety by reporting on these things to begin with.
So it's like, not an oxymoron, I don't know what the word is, but it's like you're generating awareness for it, and that creates positive and negative attention.
Yeah.
So like if people never read the news and be wary of this person, A, they wouldn't be wary of this person, which is bad, but B, they wouldn't be worried about being wary of this person, so they keep living their lives as normal.
So I was tuning out for literally
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
So it's like if, I'm concerned now. I see that the world, that people, there's floods. There are floods locally. Oh no, now I'm worried about floodwater. But if I never read that news, I wouldn't be worried about floodwater. Yes, it's still a concern, but I don't know it is.
So yes, and this is maybe probably off topic from what you were going for to begin with, but this is part of why I don't read the news. Things like COVID in the last 2 years, 100% worth knowing, what's happening so that you can help save other people.
Yeah, but reporting the numbers like a sports statistic, though?
Well, sure, like, I'm not talking about the details, right?
Yeah.
But just at a high level, and we can dive into details if we want, but just at a high level, it's worth knowing that there is a pandemic, let's say, so that you can just be more careful, avoid germs, and also avoid spreading them. But a lot of people seem to say things like 2015 was a shit year for me because 2016 because Trump got elected. Look, definitely, he's a fucker and he does a lot of wrong things, but he's in a different country. And yes, maybe we're lucky and fortunate to be saying this that we're not as directly affected by him, but it has no influence on our lives. And people often seem to base their mood on things that are so far away. I see you.
Yeah, I got a point. People who want it to be an effect on their lives and make it not their personality, but like it's like an interest, like a defining interest of them.
Yeah.
Then it affects their lives. But then again, the people who complain that it is, but make it their own, I guess, business. So like, this thing halfway across the world, it's really brought down my year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like, you're letting it affect you.
Exactly,
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, mum gets very easily affected by that, for example. And every time I tell her to maybe try not looking at the news for a week, she agrees, but she just does it, I guess, out of habit.
Yeah. Well, look, it does pay to be informed sometimes, and it also doesn't help to be too informed. I guess it's just, with the digital age of media, it's really hard to be neglectful unless that's how you are as a person. But the information is out there. People can debate about whether it's a detriment, I guess, to how we live. It's sounding like we're intellectuals now in our armchairs. We are armchair experts on people and news.
But it's interesting to talk about it.
Yeah.
To see, like, unpack the different kind of elements of...
And obviously we're qualified as comedians to talk about
Exactly.
the world.
Dude, I got a certification and everything. Like,
Yeah. We have a certificate which says, yes, we can talk about whatever we want. And, well, look, we've reached the hour point. Is there any final word you want to say? Get in and we'll wrap it up, because I know things are happening outside that door, and we've got to address that, but off camera.
Can't say anything specific. I think just overall, if I think about this almost like coding, we've opened up a lot of parentheses in terms of conversations that we have yet to actually come back to.
Oh, yeah, dude, we've got notes to add on.
Yeah. So it's very much like more exploring ideas rather than diving too deep into any of them.
Yes.
Which is fascinating, though, because the ideas are exciting, and I feel like now I'd be excited to, for some of them at least, come back and try to close that parenthesis.
Fantastic. Yeah, good, because there's a lot of drug stories left.
Ooh.
Yeah, more on your part.
We haven't even started. Like...
Oh, no, dude, like one of the guys that I have on, Sheldon, we smoked up, and I just let him...
on the podcast? Or...
Yes, well, outside the... Okay, not on camera, not on camera.
Right.
And we just let him go for it, and I sat here listening just for an hour for the last bit, and he just was going into his life story, and it's very interesting, and that's what got the most mainstream, like isolating a clip from that and sending it out. I'll show you after the podcast, so I don't have to flex statistics on my own show. If people are watching here, they definitely...
Was that the one you showed me that went super...
Yeah. Super viral. Yes, I am a big deal.
You are. I'm honored to be on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, well, in a year's time, it'll be a good investment because I know you're better at stand-up than I am. Like, that's not a question. I'll admit it. And when you go, oh, no, I did this podcast. If the podcast is way more successful, we've got that overlap of talents, because we're superstars.
Dude, next year I can say on stage, guys, I know Barnzey. I know this fucking dude.
That's right. Hey, we worked together multiple times. We are professional. Oh, fuck it. It's time to close the podcast. That's it. The podcast is over. We're done. Go home. You got better things to do. Thanks for coming, and that's it. The podcast is over.
Genuine thanks for having me, man.